The first message from the Galactic Council arrived wrapped in velvet diplomacy and the quiet arrogance of an empire that had never been seriously challenged. Human translators simplified it into a single sentence. Humanity requires safeguarding. Across Earth, Mars, Luna, and the scattered frontier colonies, the announcement spread like a bad joke told at a funeral. The Galactic Council, an alliance of civilizations older than human recorded history, had been observing humanity for nearly a century. Their probes floated silently beyond Pluto. Their diplomats watched from neutral stations. And now they had reached a conclusion. Humans were dangerous, not powerful, not advanced, just dangerously unpredictable. The Council transmission appeared simultaneously on every major broadcast network on Earth. Billions watched the enormous holographic chamber of the alien assembly unfold above the United Earth Assembly Hall in Geneva. Towering alien figures sat in a massive circular structure of glass-like crystal. Some were reptilian, some insectoid. One appeared to be a living cloud of glowing dust. At the center hovered the symbol of the Galactic Council, a ring of 13 stars, and beneath it, a voice that carried the cold patience of a species that measured time in millennia. After long observation of the species known as Homo sapiens, the voice declared, "The Council has determined that humanity presents an unacceptable level of internal instability." In the human chamber, a few diplomats exchanged glances. That sounded ominous. The alien voice continued. "Your species has demonstrated repeated patterns of self-destructive conflict." Images flashed across the broadcast. Human wars, missile strikes, orbital bombardments from the Terran colonial conflict, the asteroid weapon used during the Ceres insurrection. The Council did not sugarcoat the evidence. "You possess nuclear arsenals. You have weaponized celestial bodies. You once destroyed a moon during a corporate mining dispute." A human general in the gallery coughed loudly. The alien voice went on. "You develop weapons faster than treaties. You expand faster than stability. You fight each other even when facing extinction-level threats." There was a brief pause. Then the decision came. Therefore, under galactic law, humanity will be placed under safeguarding protocol. The words landed like a hammer. Safeguarding. A nice word. A polite word. A word that meant the same thing everywhere in the universe. Control. Human military forces will be restricted. Expansion will require Council approval. All weapons above Class 3 planetary scale must be surrendered. Council observers will oversee human governments until stability is assured. A ripple of quiet outrage moved through the human assembly. This wasn't protection. It was a leash. In the front row, Ambassador Evelyn Shaw slowly leaned back in her chair. Evelyn Shaw had the calm posture of someone who had survived far worse meetings. Her military career was the stuff of half-whispered legend in the outer colonies. She had commanded orbital marine divisions during the Europa Uprising and personally negotiated the surrender of 3 pirate warlords who had threatened to glass Mars' shipping lanes. Her hair was streaked with gray now, and the lines on her face suggested a lifetime of staring down impossible situations. But the most dangerous thing about Evelyn Shaw was simple. She smiled when things got bad. And right now she was smiling. The alien voice finished its speech. Humanity must be safeguarded from itself. The chamber fell quiet. Billions watched across the solar system. Finally, Shaw raised her hand. The alien council paused. "You may speak, human ambassador." Shaw stood slowly. She adjusted the microphone. Her voice was calm, almost polite. "I just want to make sure I understand something." "Proceed." She folded her hands behind her back. "You're saying humanity requires safeguarding?" "Yes." "Because we're dangerous?" "Yes." "And unstable?" "Yes." "And violent?" The alien voice remained completely serious. "Correct." A faint chuckle came from the human military section. Shaw nodded slowly. "Fair enough." That seemed to surprise the council. The crystalline alien leaning closest to the projection spoke. You agree with the assessment? Shaw shrugged slightly. Well, we did invent trench warfare, nuclear weapons, and reality television. A few humans laughed. The alien counselors did not. Shaw continued. But I do have one question. Ask. She leaned toward the microphone. Safeguarded from whom? The chamber went quiet. The alien counselors exchanged subtle movements. Finally one answered. From yourselves. A ripple of laughter moved through the human audience. Not loud. Just enough to make the alien representatives stiffen slightly. Shaw tilted her head. See, that's interesting. Why? Because historically, she said calmly, whenever someone tries to protect humans from themselves. Her smile widened. They're usually planning to do something worse. The crystalline alien's voice sharpened. This is not a threat. Of course not. This is a humanitarian measure. Shaw nodded slowly. Right. The alien continued. Humanity is young compared to the Council civilizations. Your emotions drive reckless decisions. You fight wars over ideology, territory, and even entertainment. Another alien chimed in bluntly. You once rioted over a sporting event. Shaw sighed. Look, nobody's proud of that one. The Council continued. You are not prepared to responsibly wield the technologies you are developing. Which technologies? Shaw asked. Planetary annihilation systems. The room shifted slightly. A human admiral coughed. Shaw raised an eyebrow. Technically, that one was labeled a terraforming accident. Your explanation is irrelevant, the alien replied coldly. The decision is final. Shaw studied the towering holographic chamber. Her expression slowly changed. Not anger. Something worse. Amusement. She leaned closer to the microphone. Well, she said quietly. That's unfortunate. The alien counselor narrowed its glowing eyes. Why? Shaw clasped her hands together. Because you're about 2 weeks too late. The chamber froze. What do you mean? One alien demanded. Behind Shaw, Admiral Castillo stood up slowly. The admiral looked like a man who hadn't slept in 3 days. Which was accurate. He spoke calmly. Yesterday, he said, humanity completed Project Long Night. The alien council erupted into overlapping voices. What project? What have you done? Explain immediately. Shaw let them talk. Then she raised a hand. The room quieted again. You see, she said, 200 years ago our astronomers noticed something strange. She tapped a console. The massive holographic star map appeared between the two chambers. Thousands of stars glittered across the projection. Then the view zoomed outward. Further. Further. Until a massive dark region appeared near the edge of the Orion Arm. Shaw's voice softened. At first we thought it was a sensor error. The map shifted again. A moving wave of stars appeared. Not planets, stars. Thousands of them. Rogue suns. Black holes. Gravitational debris traveling at terrifying velocity. The alien counselors went silent. Shaw spoke slowly. It's a stellar tidal wave. 30,000 rogue objects moving through the arm. Gravity storms. Dark matter anomalies. A cosmic collision that will wipe out everything in this region of space. An alien whispered. For a long moment, no one in the Galactic Council chamber spoke. Ancient beings who had negotiated wars between star empires, who had witnessed supernovae used as weapons, who had watched civilizations rise and collapse over tens of thousands of years, sat in stunned silence. The human ambassador had just calmly explained that a stellar apocalypse was coming, and humanity had apparently been preparing for it longer than most council civilizations had even known humans existed. The massive holographic star map still floated in the center of the chamber. A tidal wave of rogue stars, collapsed remnants, and black holes moved like a cosmic storm across the Orion Arm. 30 years. That was all the time anyone had. A crystalline counselor finally broke the silence. This is deception. Its voice rang like breaking glass. A fabrication meant to manipulate the council. Ambassador Evelyn Shaw didn't even bother responding. Instead, she turned to Admiral Castillo behind her. Admiral. Castillo nodded, displaying deep-range observatory data. The hologram shifted. Thousands of telescopes, human observatories scattered across deep space, fed real-time data into the projection. The stars move. Not slowly. Not theoretically. They were already drifting. Gravity ripples distorted nearby systems. Dark masses warped the light of distant galaxies. The wave was real. The chamber went deathly quiet again. One of the insectoid counselors spoke in a hushed tone. This cannot be stopped. Shaw shrugged slightly. Probably not. The alien lifted its many eyes toward her. Then why build machines to move stars? Shaw leaned against the podium. Because humans don't like losing. A reptilian counselor slammed its claw against the council desk. This information should have been shared immediately. Shaw raised an eyebrow. Oh? Like the way you've been secretly monitoring Earth for the last 100 years. The reptilian counselor hissed. That was for security. Right, Shaw said calmly. Observation without consent. A few human officers chuckled behind her. The crystalline alien spoke again. You claim to possess the ability to move solar systems. Correct. That scale of engineering would require unimaginable energy. Shaw nodded. Correct again. Then explain how your primitive species accomplished this. Shaw smiled faintly. That's the funny part. She tapped the star map again. Dozens of human-built megastructures appeared across nearby systems. Ring-shaped engines orbiting stars. Gigantic gravitational anchors embedded in asteroid belt. Vast networks of power collectors spanning entire systems. These, Shaw said, are stellar drift engines. One alien whispered. You are manipulating gravitational vectors. Exactly. The council leaned forward. Admiral Castillo stepped forward and continued the explanation. We discovered something interesting while studying the approaching tidal wave. The star map zoomed in on one of the rogue objects. A massive brown dwarf star drifting at terrifying speed. Castillo continued. Gravity is predictable. Given enough power and precise calculations, you can nudge a star. The alien counselors stared. You cannot nudge a star, one of them said. Castillo smiled slightly. You'd be surprised what you can nudge with a few thousand antimatter reactors. The hologram showed simulations. Human engines firing gravitational beams. Stars slowly shifting their trajectories. Entire solar systems sliding sideways through space. The reptilian counselor spoke again. You are altering galactic structure. Yes. You could destabilize neighboring civilizations. Possibly. Billions could die. Shaw shrugged. Billions are going to die anyway when the tidal wave hits. The alien chamber went silent again. Then the crystalline counselor asked the question everyone was thinking. Why did you not warn the galaxy? Shaw folded her arms. Because the last time humans shared advanced technology with other species. She paused. Someone tried to steal it. That got the council's attention. The reptilian counselor narrowed its eyes. Explain. Shaw glanced at Castillo again. The Admiral sighed. 43 years ago, he said, a joint human-alien research station near the Vega corridor disappeared. A few counselors shifted uncomfortably. We were studying early gravitational manipulation technology, Castillo continued. 3 council species attempted to seize the research. The crystalline alien interrupted sharply. Unproven accusations. Castillo didn't react. 37 human scientists were killed. The chamber grew tense. Shaw leaned forward slightly. So humanity learned a valuable lesson. She smiled coldly. Never announce a miracle until you've already finished building it. The council murmured quietly. Finally, the insectoid counselor asked the real question. If what you say is true, how many systems can you save? Shaw glanced at Castillo. The Admiral tapped his tablet. The hologram shifted again. Highlighted stars appeared across the map. Human systems. Human colonies. Strategic evacuation route. 42, Castillo said. The chamber exploded. Only 42? There are thousands of inhabited systems. Trillions of lives. Shaw raised a hand. Relax. The room quieted again. We can save 42 systems completely, she clarified. And partial evacuations from another 100 or so. The reptilian counselor leaned forward. What about the council worlds? Shaw tilted her head slightly. Well, she let the silence stretch. That depends. The crystalline alien's voice sharpened. On what? Shaw smiled again. On whether humanity is still under safeguarding. The chamber went still. The council finally understood. Humanity wasn't begging for help. Humanity was holding the only lifeboat in a sinking galaxy. And they had just been told to surrender their technology. The reptilian counselor spoke carefully. You are using this catastrophe as leverage. Shaw shrugged. I prefer to call it negotiation. The insectoid counselor asked quietly. What do you want? Shaw didn't hesitate. Recognition of humanity as a full council power. Unrestricted technological development. And complete autonomy over our colonies. The crystalline counselor snapped. You are demanding equality with civilizations millions of years older than yours. Shaw nodded. Correct. That is absurd. Maybe. She leaned closer to the microphone. But we're the only species in the galaxy currently capable of moving the stars out of the way. Silence fell over the chamber again. Then one final voice spoke. It came from a counselor who hadn't spoken until now. A towering figure of living shadow. An ancient species older than the council itself. Its voice was soft. Human ambassador. Shaw looked up. Yes. The shadow being asked a single question. If your species possesses this power. It paused. What prevents you from simply saving yourselves? The chamber went very still. Shaw looked at the star map. At Earth. At the nearby human colonies. Then she smiled again. A slower smile. A darker one. Nothing, she said. The council felt a chill. But here's the problem, Shaw continued. Humans have a bad habit. The shadow being asked quietly. What habit? Shaw's eyes gleamed. We don't just survive disasters. She leaned forward. We weaponize them. The council members stiffened. Shaw tapped the hologram again. A new set of projections appeared. Alternative trajectories. Stars moved not only out of danger. The silence that followed Ambassador Shaw's revelation did not last long. Panic rarely stays quiet. Within hours of the emergency session, the Galactic Council chamber dissolved into chaos. Ancient civilizations that had governed the Orion Arm for millennia suddenly faced a truth none of them had planned for. The galaxy was about to be rearranged. And the species doing the rearranging was humanity. Across dozens of council worlds, emergency sessions began. Fleets were recalled. Economies froze. Entire governments scrambled to understand the scale of what the humans had revealed. For 200 years, humanity had quietly constructed machines capable of moving stars. Not ships. Not weapons. Stars. Back in the United Earth Assembly Chamber, Ambassador Evelyn Shaw watched the chaos unfold through the diplomatic feeds. Alien representatives shouted over each other. Accusations flew. Threats were made. But underneath it all was something new. Fear. Admiral Castillo stepped beside her. Council fleets are mobilizing, he said quietly. Shaw didn't look surprised. Of course they are. They think we're bluffing. Most empires do when they first meet humans. Castillo folded his arms. 3 fleets are already moving toward our outer engine stations. Now Shaw sighed. Well, that's inconvenient. The Admiral raised an eyebrow. Inconvenient. Yes. She rubbed her forehead. Because if they fire on those stations. She paused. They'll accidentally trigger the demonstration. Castillo grimaced. That demonstration? Yep. Across the chamber, one of the alien counselors appeared again on the holographic display. The crystalline representative looked furious. Human ambassador. Shaw leaned toward the microphone. Yes. You have manipulated the council. Technically, we just built something impressive. You concealed existential information. You never asked. The alien's crystalline limbs trembled with anger. Council fleets are en route to secure your stellar engines. Shaw tilted her head. Secure them? Yes. For the protection of the galaxy. Behind her, several human officers laughed. The alien voice sharpened. You will stand down and surrender control of these devices immediately. Shaw folded her hands. Quick question. What? Did you read the warning labels on those stations? The crystalline counselor blinked. What warning labels? Shaw smiled. Oh. Admiral Castillo slowly exhaled. Here we go. Across the Orion Arm, 3 massive council fleets dropped out of hyperspace near the human-built Helios drift engine, a structure orbiting a small yellow star. The station was enormous, a ring structure larger than Saturn's orbit, bristling with energy collectors and gravitational emitters. Thousands of human technicians monitored its operation. When the alien fleets arrived, alarms filled the command center. A human engineer looked up from his console. We've got visitors. The station commander walked over. How many? 3 council battle fleets. The commander sighed. Of course. The alien armadas spread out around the star. Warships the size of cities formed blockade formations. A broadcast signal blasted across the system. This is the Galactic Council fleet. Human installation, power down immediately. Inside the station control room, the technicians exchanged looks. One engineer raised his hand. Sir? Yes. They're inside the operational radius. The commander froze. Did they not read the warnings? Apparently not. Outside the station, the alien fleets continued broadcasting demands. Deactivate the stellar engine immediately. Prepare for boarding. Inside the station, a young technician nervously asked. Should we tell them? The commander shook his head slowly. No. Why not? He leaned back in his chair. Because Ambassador Shaw already did. The alien fleets began advancing. And then the Helios drift engine activated. At first it was subtle. The star's light flickered slightly. Then space itself began to bend. Gravitational fields stronger than those surrounding a neutron star erupted from the massive ring structure. The alien ships immediately detected it. Warning, gravitational surge detected. Impossible, this magnitude is. Then the star moved. Not exploded. Not collapsed. Moved. The Helios engine fired a focused gravitational beam that gently pushed the star sideways through space. The alien fleets were still inside the gravitational field. Ships began drifting. Formation lines broke instantly. One cruiser spun helplessly as space itself curved beneath it. Navigation failure. Thrusters unresponsive. Gravity vector shifting. Inside the station, the technicians watched the chaos on their screens. One engineer whispered, "Wow." Another nodded. "Yeah." A third technician leaned closer to the monitor. "Wait until they see Phase 2. The commander raised an eyebrow. "Phase 2. The technician grinned. "Watch." Back in the council chamber, alarms exploded across every alien console. "What is happening?" The crystalline counselor shouted. Shaw calmly sipped coffee. One of the council analysts spoke in disbelief. "The human station has engaged a stellar displacement field. Your fleets are inside the gravity cone." The crystalline counselor stared at Shaw. "You did this intentionally." Shaw shrugged. "They flew into it. You could destroy them." Shaw shook her head. "No." She leaned toward the microphone. "But we can embarrass them." Across the Helios system, The alien fleets struggled to escape the gravitational distortion. Ships drifted like leaves in a hurricane. Then the star moved another 100,000 kilometers, and the gravitational wave rolled outward. Entire battle formations spun helplessly. Weapons systems shut down automatically. Missiles launched accidentally as targeting systems collapsed. No ships exploded. No weapons fired. But every vessel in 3 massive alien fleets was rendered completely powerless. Inside the council chamber, the realization spread like ice water. Humanity had just neutralized 3 battle fleets, without firing a single shot. Shaw finished her coffee. "See, here's the thing," she said calmly. "When you build machines capable of pushing stars..." She paused. "You accidentally invent the biggest gravity weapon in the history of the galaxy." No one spoke. The Shadow Counselor finally broke the silence. "You could destroy every fleet in the Orion Arm." Shaw shrugged. "Probably." Then she leaned forward. "But that's not the scary part." The shadow being asked quietly. "What is?" Shaw tapped the star map again. Hundreds of human-built stellar engines lit up across nearby systems, each capable of moving a star, or distorting gravity, or redirecting cosmic debris. "Once the tidal wave arrives," Shaw said softly, "we're going to start moving stars everywhere." The map shifted. New gravitational corridors appeared. Defensive barriers made of entire solar systems. Regions of space turned into traps. Supply routes blocked by stellar walls. The Council stared in stunned horror. Humanity hadn't just built evacuation technology. They had built the ultimate strategic weapon. The galaxy itself. The Shadow Counselor spoke one final question. "What happens if the Council refuses your terms?" Shaw smiled. Slowly. Then she answered with brutal honesty. "Then humanity survives the apocalypse." Her eyes hardened. "And the rest of you," she gestured toward the approaching tidal wave on the map, "can argue about safeguarding while the stars fall." The Council finally understood the truth. Humanity wasn't threatening war. They were offering salvation, but it would come on human terms. And somewhere in deep space, the first rogue star of the tidal wave crossed into the outer edge of the Orion Arm. The countdown had begun. The Galactic Council panicked. Ancient beings who had survived supernova wars, collapsed empires, and the rise and fall of trillions of lives scrambled their fleets and diplomats. Every protocol, every precaution, every centuries-old law they'd relied upon evaporated under the realization that humanity had already reshaped the rules. Ambassador Evelyn Shaw sat back in her chair, calm as ever, a thin smile cutting across her face. She sipped her coffee, watching the alien chaos unfold through the holofeed. "Admiral," she said. Admiral Castillo stepped up beside her, exhaustion etched across his face. "Council fleets are breaking formation. They're trying to pull back, but the grav fields, it's too late." Shaw tilted her head. "Good. Let them feel a little gravity for a change." The first Council ship, a massive crystalline dreadnought, drifted helplessly into the gravity distortion of a nearby stellar engine. Its crew scrambled, firing weapons, initiating thrusters, but every calculation was futile. The humans had designed the engines to be precise, but mercilessly unforgiving to anyone trespassing without permission. Inside the dreadnought, panic reigned. The ship twisted in space like a leaf in a hurricane. A voice screamed over the comms, distorted by the shifting gravity. This is impossible. Our thrusters, navigation, systems, they're failing. Help!" Then the ship was gone. Not exploded. Not annihilated. Just moved. 5 million kilometers sideways, deposited harmlessly into the outer void. A warning. A message. Shaw leaned forward. Phase 2. The other 2 fleets began coordinating attacks, desperate to regain control, but each human stellar engine responded instantly. Gravity wells, directional shifts, micro-singularities, all perfectly synchronized. Fleet after fleet was neutralized without a single human casualty. The Council watched their most advanced forces flounder helplessly against a species they had long underestimated. A crystalline counselor shouted across the holofeed. "You can't hold all these systems. Your power, it's unsustainable." Shaw's smile widened. "Actually, we can. Every station, every engine, every planet in our designated grid is fully operational. And while you panic, the stellar wave is still coming." A shadow counselor, older than most civilizations in the Orion Arm, finally spoke. Its voice was softer, tinged with awe. "You're not merely defending yourselves, you're weaponizing the very disaster you foresaw." "Exactly," Shaw replied. Her eyes gleamed. "And here's the twist." The alien counselors leaned in, almost involuntarily. "Long before any of you noticed the tidal wave," she continued, "we predicted you'd attempt to control us once you discovered our technology. And you're right. That was the plan. But here's what you missed." She tapped a holographic node, and the display shifted. Hundreds of strategic points across human-engineered stellar corridors blinked into life. Not just stars, but gravitational kill zones, hypermass traps, and displacement vectors capable of obliterating fleet. "You see," Shaw said softly, "we didn't build these engines just to survive. We built them to decide who survives. And history tells us, anyone who underestimates humans usually regrets it." The alien chamber went silent, and then, unexpectedly, the crystalline counselor hissed. "You dare threaten the Council?" Shaw shrugged. "No. Just stating facts." She gestured to the star map again. "Your fleets have two choices. Step aside and allow humanity to operate freely, or interfere and watch entire strategic fleets become irrelevant before a single human soldier fires a shot." Across the Orion Arm, the first rogue stars entered human-monitored zones. Stellar engines shifted entire systems to safety, bending space itself. Civilizations that had dismissed humanity as minor suddenly realized that their survival depended entirely on human decisions. Shaw's eyes glimmered with something darker now, a mixture of satisfaction, pride, and the cruel joy of calculated revenge. "You see, Council," she said, leaning into the microphone, "for 200 years you've treated humans like children, like volatile pets. You've judged, dictated, and condescended. But in that time, humanity built a future you can't even imagine, and a weapon you cannot control." The Shadow Counselor asked quietly, almost in disbelief, "And after the wave?" Shaw's smile went cold. "After the wave we rebuild. On our terms. And any civilization that tried to cage humanity will wake up in a galaxy that looks very different from the one they remember. Every colony, every engine, every star we save is leverage. Every misstep you make, you will feel it." A reptilian counselor's voice trembled. You would sacrifice billions for leverage?" Shaw leaned forward. "No. We save billions. But we decide who else survives along with them. And make no mistake," she tapped the projection. "We already know the outcomes. The stellar engines don't lie. The galaxy will remember who underestimated us." Across the chamber, alarms erupted as the Council realized the implications. They had been so focused on classifying humanity as volatile that they had completely failed to recognize that humans didn't just survive volatility. Humans weaponized it. Shaw finished her address with quiet authority. "We don't need your safeguards. We don't need your approval. And we sure as hell don't need your permission." The chamber went dark as the transmission ended. Billions across the galaxy stared at their screens. 3 ancient fleets were scattered across empty space, harmless, humiliated. Dozens of Council worlds were forced to acknowledge the terrifying truth. Humanity wasn't just a young, volatile species. Humanity was the only species in the galaxy capable of shaping the stars themselves. And anyone who doubted them would never forget it. Evelyn Shaw poured herself another cup of coffee, glanced at Admiral Castillo, and said, with that familiar, dangerous smile, Well, Admiral, shall we start moving the galaxy? Castillo grinned, a thin line of exhaustion crossing his face. Yes, ma'am. Let's make them regret ever thinking we needed protection. The countdown had begun. Humanity wasn't asking permission anymore. Humanity was claiming dominion, and the galaxy would learn the hard way that underestimating humans was a fatal error.